Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to share my birth stories for both of my boys. I feel like it's just, I've never made a video on it obviously, and I feel like it's something that everyone's really interested in and curious about, and I love hearing about people's birth experience and giving birth and what they went through, and some things are similar, some things are different, but no one's birth story is ever going to be like the exact same. So I have two babies. I have two little boys. Michael is 5 and Benjamin is just turned 2. And my first labor was induced, and my second labor was, I went into labor naturally. So I'm going to start with my first baby and then my second baby. I'll add in timestamps for when I start talking about my second labor, which was a natural labor, if you don't want to hear about the induced one. So I'll leave that in the description. So let's start with my first labor, my first baby. I had Michael when I was 20, and I got pregnant when I was 19. He was born on November 10th, 2012, 11/10/12 at 4:24 a.m. He weighed 8 pounds 1 ounce. Let's start off on the day before I had him is when everything starts. I was 39 weeks. I was going in for my 39-week checkup. And to let you know about my pregnancy, I was very I didn't start out very overweight, but I ate way too much for this pregnancy. I know that everyone tells you, oh, you can eat it if you want it, you're pregnant, eat it, blah, blah, blah. But I took that to a different level and I blew up like a tick, and it wasn't cute. And it was not healthy for my baby. I had gained, how much weight did I gain? I gained almost like 70 pounds with my first pregnancy, and I just indulged, and I just don't recommend doing that. You can absolutely, you're pregnant, you are literally growing another human. Indulge a little here and there and eat a little extra, but you don't literally need to eat 2 entrees and 2 desserts. Like, your baby doesn't need to eat that much. And I wasn't aware of that. I developed preeclampsia, and we went in for my 39-week checkup, which was actually, their office was in the hospital where I was going to have my baby. And my boyfriend at the time, my fiance now, the father of my children, Mike, came. He was with me, and we went in, and they take your urine sample, and I had protein in my urine, which was not a good sign. It was a sign of preeclampsia. I was extremely swollen, extremely. The doctor asked Mike if I looked extra swollen, like more than usual, and he was like, she's looked like this, and she was like 6 months pregnant. So they had us go up to maternity to check on the baby, and my blood pressure was also very high. That was not going down. I was in the like checkup room. Like, I wasn't in an actual room where I would give birth. I was in the checkup room, and my blood pressure was very high. Everything was good though with the baby. He was head down. She said he was going to be around 8 pounds, which she was actually right. They said that they were going to induce me because my preeclampsia was dangerous for the baby and for me, and I didn't understand what all of that meant, but I just knew that I wanted my baby to be okay, and I wanted to be okay, and that's what we were doing. So we were brought into a room, we got settled, and Mike actually left to go get all of our stuff and our car seat and our bag. I did have a bag packed, and he got me some pajamas and clothes. We called our parents and told our parents and all that stuff, and they gave me a pill, not to eat, not to swallow, but they like put it up there, and I forget the name of it. If anyone knows, let me know, but I guess they can give it to you every 4 hours. The first pill they gave me was at 7 p.m. After we got all checked in and all hooked up and all settled. And they said it could take a really long time. It could take a couple days, but not necessarily. It could be the next day. They don't really know. But I was 39 weeks, and he was fully developed. So that really didn't do much. I was in no pain. We ordered like a pizza. We had pizza for dinner. My best friend came and they gave me the second pill. Okay, wait, I don't think that they gave me the pill at 7. That was too late. I think they gave it to me at 4. Yes, they gave me the first pill at 4 because my appointment was during the day. Okay, I got a little confused. So then they gave me a second pill because nothing was working 4 hours later at like 8 o'clock. My water ended up breaking around 10. Yes, my water ended up breaking around 10. And right before my water broke, the contractions were getting stronger. I would have to like not hold my breath, but try to breathe during them. And then after my water broke, they were absolutely the worst pain I have felt in my entire existence. Say that nothing compared to going into natural labor. I'll get into that when I talk about my second labor, but they were horrible, like unbearable. I feel like because I was induced, it was speeding everything up so fast that my body wasn't naturally doing it for me, and it was just, the pain was unbearable. So unfortunately, this was at past midnight when the pain was unbearable. My water was breaking. It was just like your water breaks and it keeps breaking. It's not like one big gush and then that's it. My water was like still breaking. I was standing up and just screaming and crying, and the nurses were just like lovely and trying to calm me down and telling me to breathe. And my best friend was actually there. She stayed, and Mike was there, obviously. Now, the funny thing is that the doctor and the nurses told us not to call our parents yet because we didn't want them sitting around. Mike and I were the only ones that wanted to be in the room when I actually delivered him. And we had known, I don't know if I mentioned this, but we had found out that we were having a boy when I was around 18, 20 weeks. So we had known it was a boy the whole time. We didn't have a name picked out, but we just argued about names for 9 months. It was fun. But finally, I got my epidural. It was like the middle of the night, early morning. I think it was like 2 in the morning, or maybe 1. I don't know exactly. But I felt a million times better immediately. Like 10 minutes after, I felt so much better. And they told us all to go to sleep, and because I would need to, I was exhausted and I was going to have to push this baby out, so get some sleep. So we fell asleep, and at the time that I got my epidural, I was only 5 centimeters dilated, and so we all fell asleep. I felt absolutely no pain. You could feel like a little pressure of the baby, but besides that, I really couldn't feel contractions. I woke up, and the nurse had kept coming in to check on me. I had felt a lot of pressure down there. Like I literally felt the babies, like I could feel the pressure, not like pain, but the pressure. And I had told her, and she's like, okay, you just were 5 centimeters a couple hours ago, like you should be okay. The epidural usually slows things down a little bit. And I was like, okay, just have her come check me. She came in and checked me and turned the lights on, and she said I was +2, meaning like I think there's different, like you could be -2, like the baby's close but not all the way there, but +2 was meaning that I was completely dilated and the baby was ready to go. And she just stood up and she said, okay, we're getting ready to push. And that's just when I was like, is this really happening? You know, like I could just cry thinking about it. I didn't even know what to feel. I was scared. I was excited. I didn't know what it was going to be like to push a baby out. And we unfortunately kicked my best friend out of the room. It was just really important for Mike and I to share that moment, just me and him. And it was only me, him, my doctor, and the nurse. Those were the only 4 people in the room for this birth. And it took me less than 20 minutes of pushing. I think I pushed for 18 minutes. It wasn't even, I think my labor was less than 6 hours. I pushed that baby out, and there he was. All 8 pounds 1 ounce of him was perfect, and he was perfect perfectly perfect, nothing wrong. I'm gonna cry. Okay. I still have to do my whole other labor story. But that was my labor of my first baby in 2012. It was 100 times more painful than I'm going to talk about with my labor with my second baby being induced. At least for me, that was my experience. I wish that I had gotten an epidural right away. Now let's get into my second labor story, which is actually a lot funnier and much more entertaining. My second baby, Benjamin, was born on May 30th, 2016. He was 6 pounds, 11 ounces, and he was born at 8:15 p.m. Just a little side note is I got to the hospital at 4:30, 4:45, and I had him at 8:15. We'll start out the day before that I gave birth to him. Actually, let's start 2 days before I gave birth to him. I worked at a restaurant and I was a waitress up until I was like 36 weeks. I was carrying plates around. I was doing my thing. My friends like still make fun of me how I waddled around carrying all these dishes and plates. But the last couple of weeks, I just was a hostess and I just brought people to their table. And by the way, like the things that people say to pregnant people, like people would walk in and they'd be like, "Oh, when were you due? Yesterday?" And I'm like, "That's nice, like thank you." Well, my last day of work was Saturday night. And it was very bittersweet saying goodbye to everyone and knowing that I was gonna leave and have a baby. And Sunday night we had a cookout at our house and some of our friends were here. It was just like a small Memorial Day cookout because that was Memorial Day weekend. And that Sunday night I told my friends, I was like, I'm having this baby. Like, not to be gross, well, you're watching a labor and delivery story, so I'll tell you, but like I literally felt him between my legs. Like I was like, not between my legs, but like right there. His head was right there. And I was like, I'm having this baby within the next couple of days. We went to bed that night and Michael was 3.5 at this time. He was 3.5 when I had Ben. And I went to bed and during the middle of the night, I was having little contractions. The next morning, I woke up and I went to get Mike and I coffees that Monday, May 30th. I was actually crying on the way back from how much pain I was in from these contractions. Take that back. Not like the pain. It wasn't the pain that was making me cry. I knew I was having contractions. Like I knew that this feeling I was having contractions, and sometimes you just can't explain your pregnancy hormones and emotions, but I just was crying. I don't really know why. I was like, I don't know if I was scared and nervous or it was painful. It was the combination of all those things. So let's start our day out. So that happened. It was my best friend's birthday. And we went out to breakfast. I was legit having contractions, like 10 minutes apart, honest to God, maybe like 12 minutes apart. I was having contractions and I was telling everyone like, I'm having contractions, I'm having contractions. And everyone's like, oh yeah, like you're okay. Mind you, I was 38 weeks on that day. I was 38 weeks and I was huge. I had not gained that much weight. I had gained about 40 pounds, which is like nothing compared to my first pregnancy. I was also a lot smaller than I was when I got pregnant with Ben than I was when I got pregnant with Michael. I was like almost 20 pounds lighter. So anyways, we go out to breakfast with my best friend and her boyfriend and it was great. And I was like, I'm having contractions, but it's fine. No one listened to me. It's okay. And then we just had a day. We went to Bed Bath & Beyond. I'm walking through the aisles and I'm like, I don't even know why I'm doing this right now. Why are we having a freaking day out? Like, honest to God, like we hadn't had a day that we did all these errands in so long. Like, why are we doing this the day that I'm in labor? Went there, we were there for like an hour. We bought like a new comforter set for our guest room. Like, then we go to Home Depot, we buy a patio set. And by the time, now it's like probably like 1 in the afternoon, maybe like 12:30. By the time that we were getting ready to check out at Home Depot, I was crying. I was crying and I said, we need to leave. And a woman approached me at the Home Depot and said, she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I think I'm in labor." And I was crying. Now, I forgot to say, that morning, this is going to be all over the place. It will all make sense. But that morning, I called my OBGYN. I called the doctor. And she said, wait it out, you know, because it was too early. I mean, I wasn't having contractions back to back, but they were getting more painful. She said that they could subside and they could go away. I mean, definitely keep an eye on them and time them and go from there. So I had called her that morning. We get home from our freaking day of like doing 12 million errands while I'm in labor. And we get home and Mike was just trying to calm me down. And he was like amazing that day. Besides like dragging me to Bed Bath & Beyond and Home Depot, but it's fine. I forgive him. But like coming, like helping me calm down and like with the pain. And he was like, they said like it could go away and like maybe you'll be fine. And I was like, Mike, I'm not lying, like help me. So we went upstairs. We had like this big TV upstairs and he was like, just relax, let's watch a movie, we'll relax, like you relax. The contractions were like getting to the point where I was like holding on to the chair because they were so bad. And now they were probably like 7 or 8 minutes apart. It got to the point where I was like, we need to call the doctor pretty much. Like they were just getting, like I was in labor. It was clear. We called the doctor, and a little backstory on the doctor is, we'll call her Dr. T. So she was my doctor with Michael, and the OBGYN that I went to was, you didn't see one specific doctor, you saw like all the doctors that worked there. There was like 5 of them, and whoever was on call was working that day was the doctor that would deliver your baby. Now that happened to be Dr. T when I had Michael, and she was incredible, like an angel. And I followed up with her and like got, you know, different appointments with her after I had Michael. Now, when Michael was around like 2, I got a letter in the mail that she was moving out of state with her husband, and I was heartbroken, because I absolutely loved her. I don't like feel that way about doctors, but like we just hit it off, and I could talk to her and like be myself, and I was like really upset that she was leaving. So now when I got pregnant with Ben, when I would go back in for my appointments, I asked about her and I said, you know, what's the deal? Like she left, she was amazing. And they said, yeah, she does come back one weekend every month or something, or every 2 months she'll do an on-call shift and she will be at the hospital where I have my baby. And I was like, oh, that's good, you know, that's cool, whatever, like not thinking that she would be there. So in the morning, I had talked to a different doctor. And now, back to where we are now, when I'm calling again, it's now like 3 something. I had Mike call them because I was just not okay and said, we need to talk to a doctor like right now. A woman answers the phone and she was like, hi, this is Dr. T. And I was like, shut up, like get out, that this woman, that this doctor is on call right now. And I was like, is that Dr. T? Like I just got so emotional and I was like, it's meant to be. And I talked to her and she said, honey, come in, like you need to come in right now. So Mike was incredible. I took a shower. I called my brother. I took a shower. We called Mike's parents. We called my mom, we let them know, and the worst part of this whole entire thing was saying bye to Michael. Oh my God, don't cry. I haven't cried this whole time. Stop, I have my period. I'm an emotional wreck. Okay, so it was like saying goodbye to him, and I was just sobbing. I was just a wreck. I was in pain. I was going to give birth, which my first experience was not so lovely. So I was leaving him, and I wasn't going to see him until he had a little brother. We also, back to the beginning, we had found out it was a boy, another boy, when I was around 20 weeks again. So yeah, that was really sad leaving him, and exciting to go to the hospital and finally not be pregnant, because those last couple of weeks are like, get this baby out of me, you know. I wanted to meet him so bad. And he didn't have a name, by the way, either. Mike, it's Memorial Day, and we live somewhere there's a lot of traffic on Memorial Day, and luckily it was like later in the afternoon where the traffic wasn't as bad, but we took the back roads to the hospital, and I brought a blanket in case my water broke in the car, and I did a really good job. I did a really good job getting there. Thank God to Mike. He told me to breathe. He said, Isabel, breathe, breathe. And through every contraction, I would go, I would do the breathing. And it really helped. I wasn't screaming, I was breathing. My camera just overheated on me, so I think I was talking about my breathing. I did a really good job breathing instead of screaming. Wheeled me into the hospital. I didn't have a baby bag packed, the diaper bag ready. I didn't have clothes packed. I literally just showered and threw a bunch of stuff in a bag. And I highly recommend to get cozy socks. Bring big cozy socks to the hospital. I packed those. I learned that the first time. But he wheeled me in there, and I was just in so much pain. We're like, all right, we're having a baby. And I went back into that room, that checkup room that I was in before with Michael, and I was 6 centimeters dilated. Like, I felt like, I was like, hell yes, I am. Like, I was 5 centimeters dilated with Michael when I got the epidural, that first labor, and I was already 6 centimeters with Benjamin. I had heard a lot of times that your second baby can just like come right out, and I didn't really know what to expect, but that wasn't exactly the case, but I was farther along than I thought I could have made it naturally, you know, that my body naturally did this, and it was so much easier. The pain of the contractions was nothing like being induced. It was nothing like that. It was extremely painful, but it wasn't the same kind of pain. I don't even know if that makes sense, because a contraction's a contraction. Oh, you know why? Duh, because my water hadn't broken yet. So I think that's the thing, is that once your water breaks, the contractions are a whole new kind of pain, because instead of having that amniotic fluid around your baby that's like kind of like helping the contraction, once that water's out of there, that is you and that baby contracting, and that is why it's so much more painful. Okay, so that's why it wasn't as painful. But and that's why too, is that my water broke so early. I wasn't even that dilated when I was induced. That also made a difference. I just like, that just made sense to me in my head. Duh. Okay, continuing. So we got checked in, we went into our room, and the contractions were getting closer and closer together. I was quickly already 7 centimeters. The nurse was an absolute angel. I think her name was Jessica. I need to go find her. Like, 2 years later, I need to give her like a card or something. She was an angel. And I said to it to Mike, and he's like, isn't that her job? And I was like, she didn't have to be that nice to me. Like, she was an angel. Like, any nurses out there, you guys are angels sent from heaven, like, honestly. She was talking me through it, and she got me undressed, and I'm just like naked, and I don't care, and she's putting the little Johnny thing on me, and she was talking me through, and she's like, you can do this with no epidural, like, you can do this. And I was like, bitch, like, yeah, but no. Like, I finally got to 8 centimeters. I was at 8 centimeters when I got my epidural, and I was like, I need it. Like, I cannot. I was like exhausted from our day of shopping, and I was like starting to feel drained and exhausted, and the pain was getting worse and worse and worse. And when I ordered the epidural right when it took a little bit to like get in there, get the epidural ready, yada yada, and you have to stay completely still. you have to be as still as you can when you're getting the epidural. Like, okay, let me just have a contraction and stay still, like it's fine. So I think I remember I was holding on to this lady, Jessica, and I was like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That's what I kept saying. Put the epidural in. I couldn't even, like, I could feel it. I couldn't even feel it with Michael. When I got that epidural, I couldn't even feel it go in. This one, I could feel it a little bit, but like, no big deal. Like, it, honestly. And I had to stay as still as I could. They put it in. I turned over. I was sitting there. The epidural woman was still in the room. Anesthesiologist, that's what she is. She was still in the room, like, finishing up paperwork. Jessica, my angel, was standing like on the computer putting things in, and they were like, I was like, okay, my legs are like starting to feel a little tingly, and then all of a sudden my water broke, and I was like, my water's breaking, my water's breaking, my water's breaking. And they were like, all right, we'll get her in here. I just like kind of like flew the blankets off of me, and the doctor needs to come in to check the amniotic fluid just to make sure. I think the baby can poop inside, and they just want to like make sure it's clear, which it was fine. And my water broke while I think right after I got my epidural. Okay, sorry. Right after I got my epidural, they were like, okay, Mike, like go get all this stuff from the car, because he like wheeled me in, went and parked, and like ran inside. And so he had to go get, just to bring all of her stuff in, like she got the epidural, like it's, you know, the baby's not gonna pop out, like you have a minute. So right like when he left, that's when my water broke, yeah. So they came and checked my fluid, and they're like, okay, the doctor was gonna check how dilated I was. I was 10 centimeters, like I was ready to have this baby. And they're like, oh, okay, so like, okay, like the baby's right there, like you're gonna have him right now. And I called Mike, and I don't know what it felt like he was gone for, I don't think he was. So I had to call him, so we can get a timeline here. So I had to call him, so it must have been, I think it was like right at 8 o'clock, because the main entrances to get into the hospital close right at 8. The only way for him to get to me was to go through the emergency room entrance, which was like on the other side of the hospital. So he tried to just go back in the normal entrance. It was locked. So that's when I was calling him, and I was like, I'm pushing, like I'm about to push, we need you here. And they were setting up all this stuff, and there was like all these nurses there. He came in flying, like he literally ran in and like jumped over things. And I was just like sitting there, legs open, like getting ready to do this. Mind you, the epidural, like this wasn't even like, the epidural hadn't even like kicked in yet. I put my legs up on the stirrups, like I could feel whatever. And I could feel whatever. That's pretty much the bottom line. I could feel whatever. I felt like I was being ripped open from, yeah. So that was traumatic. And granted, the contractions weren't that bad. Pushing this baby out was very memorable. I could feel everything. And like when I said, so with Michael, like it was just us 4 in the room. With Benjamin, there was, I had an audience. There was like all these nurses, the doctor, Mike, like I was like, what's happening? And obviously in between contractions, you can't push. You can only push when there's a contraction like helping you push. Really when you're not having a contraction and you're pushing, like you're just pushing for no reason. So in between contractions, I was just sitting there with my legs wide open, like with bright lights shining down, with people just staring at me, like silent, like so uncomfortable. So I think I was yelling, get him out, get him out. Like I was just yelling that. And it felt like I was pushing forever. But if you think about it, I didn't even push 20 minutes again. If I called, the doors closed at 8, so Mike couldn't get in. I had him at 8:15. So I wasn't even pushing for 20 minutes. And he came out. It just felt like forever. And he came out and they put him right up on me, and he was little. He was 6 pounds 11 ounces. He was 2 weeks early, and I wasn't like a blown up tick, but he was perfect, absolutely perfect. He was a little jaundiced, but it was like nothing. He was totally fine. And yeah, that was like, it was a different experience having a second baby. I didn't know how I could like ever love something as much as I loved Michael. Like, how could I ever? But I also, when I had Michael, it was very like seeing this baby. It was incredible, and it was my baby. Like I made this baby, but it was scary. It was very intimidating at the first. Like at first, you make a baby, but you're meeting this person for the first time. Like, you don't know like what they like, what they don't like. It's just very intimidating. But I felt like I had learned so much with Michael. You know, I got breastfeeding down so good, and I breastfed Michael for so long, and all that stuff, that I was just so excited to have a little baby again and to do that all over again. Does that make sense? Like Michael, they always say like the first child's like the guinea pig, and like it's true. Like I was like, so like Michael wasn't allowed to have sugar until his first birthday, and you know, nothing but water, which I still stand by. My kids don't drink juice hardly ever. But that's besides the point. But you know what I mean? But like Ben like had juice boxes when he was like 10 months, like has had cupcake, you know, like it's just fine. But I hope I didn't miss anything. This video is going to be super long, so I apologize if it is. But those are my labor and delivery stories for both of my baby boys. Ask me if I want a third one. I go back and forth. Like, I don't, physically and emotionally, I don't know. Not right now. Not right now, for sure. I love just watching them. Like, they're becoming the best of friends. And when Michael comes home from school, like, Ben just gives him the biggest hug, and they just love each other so much. And for anyone out there that has one child and are thinking of having a second one, it is by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, having 2 children, overcoming obstacles and getting into a routine and learning how to like take time for each one of them. But I, without a doubt, do it. Have a second baby. They will get so close, no matter how big of an age difference. They're siblings, you know, and their blood. I can't even put into words like their love for each other, like how that makes me feel, you know? Okay, don't cry. All right. I did really good at almost not crying, besides leaving Michael. That will still be etched in my mind, how hard that was. But I'm gonna shut up now. I think I'm just gonna like stop the video, because I could just keep talking like about things, but like I'll do that later. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if you liked my stories. And none of it's fiction, it's all true, it all really happened. I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.